Now we are going to make our player react to the input, pressing left and right to move horizontally and space to jump, for example. To do so, we have to start by setting up input mappings. So go to Project, Project Settings, Input Map tab. The input map allows you to map keys on the keyboard or on the gamepad to a label that you can then reuse in your code to reference all these keys. You have some defined by default by Godot for the user interface, and we are going to add some. So click on the bar next to action, and you want to type the name for your action. Let's start with move left, click add, and so let's do that first action. You see it added at the bottom of the list. On the right, you have a plus icon that allows you to add input mappings. So click here. We're going to add a key on the keyboard, and then you want to press that key. Let's start with WASD. So A to move the character left. You can add another key on the keyboard. Say a player wants to play with the arrows, so left arrow. And that should be it for now. You could also add the gamepad, so joy axis in this case, and you could take axis 0, left, stick left, the -1. And that way, whether you press A left or press it on an Xbox gamepad or on a DualShock PlayStation 1, you will get the same input, move left, in the code to react to these three inputs. Let's do the same for move right. Well, I'm going to create this input action. So the D key, I'm going to add the right key, and finally joy axis. This time it's going to be axis 0 plus, left stick to the right side. So add these, and we're going to add an action to jump. Jump is going to be the W key, the up arrow, or on the not joy axis, joy button here, Xbox A. With that, we have the actions we need to get started. We can start coding the character's movement, the player's movement to be exact. Click on the script next to the player node to open the script editor. Well, I'm going to add that physics process function there again. Function physics process, and we're going to write some code in there. The way it works is this callback is a bit special. This function, as I told you, it's defined by the engine. It's specific to Godot. It doesn't exist in other game engines. And it works that way. When you have a class that extends another, the actor, Godot will run this function's physics process, but it will also run its parent's physics process. So it will run this code as well as everything that we will write here automatically. Here we are going to first calculate the direction the player is trying to move in on every frame using our input. To do that, we have to use the input class in Godot inside the physics process. It's a globally available class that allows you to get or query for inputs on every frame in the game. For example, so when you type the name of the class that's accessible like that, you can press dot to then access its members, all of its properties or all of its methods that you can see with the parentheses. Note that pressing the dot and accessing some property is similar to the properties you have listed in the inspector in the editor. If you hover any of these, you will see the name underlined, in this case, gravity in lowercase, right? When you do input dot, if you control click on the input class, you will open its documentation in the script editor, and then you can see all the methods it has, right, under the methods section here. And we're going to use methods that will tell us on every frame if the player is pressing a key. So let me close these docs here. So what we're going to do here is call a method called getActionStrength on the input class. And we can pass in one of the input actions we defined in the project settings. You can see that Godot auto-completes them for you. So let's start with move right. This function, getActionStrength, is going to return a floating point value, a decimal value. And if the key is pressed fully to the right, it's going to return 1. If the key is not pressed, it's going to return 0. This is handy because when it comes to directions, we want moving to the right to be 1 and moving to the left to be -1. You will see that in a moment how that works. But you can control click on that method to jump to its documentation, and you will see that the line starts with float. This is the return type of the function. It will return a decimal value in that case. And the documentation explains that a little better, returns a value between 0 and 1, representing the intensity of the given action. The point of this function here is that if you don't press the joystick all the way, you will have a decimal value. Maybe if you pull the stick half of the way, you're going to get a value of 0.5, for example.